All right, so today we're talking about the Duggars, but this isn't the story you remember from TV. We're going to look at this really stark contrast between two of the most prominent siblings, Duggar and Josh, whose lives are just heading in completely opposite directions.
So on one side, you have Ginger, who's out there building a totally new life for herself. And on the other, you have her brother Josh, who's now in federal prison, claiming he's been left with absolutely nothing. It's a wild story. So let's get into it and see what's really happening here.
So, first up, let's talk about Ginger Duggar. Her story is a pretty huge break from that traditional, very sheltered family lifestyle back in Arkansas.
After getting married back in 2016, she and her husband Jeremy moved first to Texas and then a couple years later all the way out to California. And you got to think, this isn't just about changing zip codes. It's symbolic, right? She's putting literally thousands of miles between her new life and the family's home base.
It's interesting, someone on Instagram actually asked her who she still talks to, and her answer was super specific. It was mostly her older sisters, but she made a point to call out her younger sister, Jennifer, too. It kind of shows a really intentional, curated approach to her family relationships. She's focusing on the bonds that she wants to keep strong.
And you can see it in the little personal stories she shares, like this quote about her sister Joanna visiting her in California for a whole month. You can just feel how much she valued that time. It's another piece of her building her own story, totally separate from the big family narrative.
And listen, Ginger isn't just living quietly out on the West Coast. Nope. She is actively building a public brand, and she's doing it completely on her own terms. On her podcast, she's talking about things that would have been unthinkable under the Duggar family's old, polished image. Things like her own struggles with diet, breastfeeding, even postpartum anxiety. This is her becoming this modern, relatable personality.
Okay, so now we have to pivot to the other side of this coin, because while Ginger is building a new life out in the open, her oldest brother, Josh, is living a reality that could not be more different, and it's almost totally hidden from public view.
So to really get what's happening with him, you have to rewind to the end of 2021. That's when he was convicted on these really serious federal charges for receiving and possessing what's called CSAM. And that conviction landed him a prison sentence of more than 12 years.
And when you look at this timeline, you just see how final his situation is becoming. I mean, after the conviction and the sentencing, his legal options just started to evaporate. The final door really slammed shut in June of 2024, when the U.S. Supreme Court just said no to hearing his appeal. The earliest he could possibly get out is late 2032.
But the prison sentence itself is only one piece of the puzzle. There was a recent court filing that revealed this really dramatic new claim about his life inside prison. And it just adds another whole layer to this story.
So get this. In a legal motion, Josh Duggar is now officially claiming that he is destitute. He's telling the court he has no money, no assets, not even a prison job that pays. He says the financial support he was getting from his family has been completely cut off, leaving him with a balance in his commissary account of, well, basically nothing. 22 cents. Let that sink in for a second. According to a court filing from April of 2024, that is all the money he has to his name in prison. For someone from a family that was once a media empire, that number is just staggering. And that 22 cents looks even more shocking when you remember what was being reported before, right? We heard he was enjoying some comforts in prison, designer sneakers and other nice things bought with family money. Now he's claiming he has nothing and is even representing himself in court because he says he can't afford a lawyer.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Is this story of being financially abandoned actually what it looks like on the surface, or is something else going on? Critics who have followed the family for years think there might be more to it.
Which brings us to the big question here. Did the Duggars, after years and years of supporting him, really just cut him off completely, or is this part of some kind of strategy?
Well, the big theory that critics are floating is that this isn't abandonment, it's a tactic. The thinking is, by claiming he's destitute, he could achieve a couple of things. One, it would make his case for getting a public defender much stronger. And two, it might help him get his hefty court fines and restitution payments lowered. And people point out that this would fit a pattern of what some have called creative financial maneuvering that was seen from the family right before his trial. So when you pull back and look at these two stories, Ginger's and Josh's, side by side, you get this really powerful, really clear picture of a family at a major turning point.
I mean, when you just lay it out like this, the contrast is incredible. Ginger's out in California building her own brand as an independent podcaster.
Josh is in a federal prison in Texas, a convicted felon. She's choosing her family connections on her own terms. He's claiming he's been completely cut off. Their day-to-day lives, their entire focus, it is just night and day.
And that's what leaves us with this huge final question. As one sibling is out there forging this independent life, while another is in prison claiming he's been left with nothing, what does that signal for the future of the Duggar family brand, for their whole legacy? One path feels like a possible future, the other is a constant reminder of a past they can't seem to shake. It seems like that's the real story now, and it's one that is far from over.